First of all, I welcome you here in the Nalanda Literature Festival. And I'm, on behalf of the NLF, I'm grateful to you for finding out little time for us. We have on the other end, Shri Amit Lodha ji. He is a IPS officer of the Bihar cadre, currently serving as the Additional Director General of the State Crime Records Bureau. He has received multiple honors, including the Police Medal for Gallantry, President's Medal for Meritorious Service, Internal Security Medal, and Utkrisht Seva Medal. He has co-founded the portal bharatkveer.com, .gov.in with actor Akshay Kumar. He is the author of 3 best-selling books, Bihar Diaries, Life in the Uniform, and The Police Affairs. It is indeed a great pleasure to have somebody in civil services yet maintaining the historical as also the literary interest survived. Congratulations for this. A great round of applause for him. And we have Abhishek Anand. He is also a doctorate in ancient Indian history from Jawaharlal Nehru University, earning the highest grades consistency. He is currently working as a research fellow at the Bharat Ki Soch Foundation, inspired by ancient Indian wisdom. The work involves researching in ancient Indian wisdom, knowledge system, and traditions to address contemporary issues. Thank you and congratulations for this. आज का जो विषय है वो है कि writing India in English. So I will first start with Mr. Lodha. How did you start thinking to write despite being so demanding in your profession? And then why at all English, knowing fully well that English may have its limitations in terms of reaching out to the readers, not necessarily that it is foreign, but for the reasons that it may not contact the people, it cannot make them as a part of their heart. So how did you decide and when did you decide?
Thank you so much for this wonderful event at Nalanda Literature Festival. Special thanks to Alia and Ganga, both my friends, and I'm sure it's a wonderful beginning for not only Nalanda but Bihar also, because I think this is for the first time we are having a literature festival organized at this scale. So coming to your question, first of all, I never thought of writing. I have no interest, no passion in writing, but I always was lucky to have a good command over language. And I used to be the editor of a school magazine in St. Xavier's, Jaipur. Later on at IIT Delhi also I was the editor of the magazine of IIT. And then in IIT I thought that I'll write my memoirs as an IIT student. But I had no idea of publishing and I just wrote a few pages and left it at that. But then my famous batchmate and dear friend Chetan Bhagat, he wrote 5 Point Someone, which is a huge success. And I've been saying this at so many forums that I became very jealous of Chetan. That Chetan has written this story and I could have written something better than him. You know, friends always compare each other's work. And then I just dropped this idea. Then later on, as destiny would have it, a few of my other friends, they encouraged me to write. And finally, I thought I must. Penguin approached me. I don't know if Millie Ashore has come here or not. Millie Ashore, the editor of Penguin. She approached me that I must write my memoirs as a police officer. And I wrote my first book, Bihar Diaries, and I thought that is the end of it. I've ticked off something off my bucket list. I never imagined that it would be such a huge success. And I feel very privileged, very humble that the best part of the book is that it helped change the perspective of so many people who had a very negative image of the police. So I keep getting messages from all over the country even today that Bihar is something which inspired us to become police officers and helped us change our idea of the Indian police. And why English, I really don't know, but maybe I studied in St. Xavier's school, so I'll be very honest with you, I don't know how to lie. We think in English only. You know, it's difficult for me to pen my ideas in Hindi, though I have a very good command over Hindi also. I can write. I never thought of writing in Hindi or English. English came naturally to me. I just wrote about it. And I didn't imagine it would be such a huge bestseller. Then this book was translated into Hindi also. It has done reasonably well in Hindi also, but not to the extent that it did so well in English. That question, I don't know. You asked me that why I didn't write in Hindi. Rather, I'm perplexed by the other way around. The other question that why Hindi readers are not reading this book. Though the book belongs to Bihar, the Hindi heartland, and it narrates the everyday struggles of all of us, particularly the people of Bihar. So I don't know. But this is something which came natural to me to write in English. You also asked me how did I find time to write this book? So I read long time back that a busy man has time for everything. So I'm good at managing my time, and since my books are pure non-fiction, I didn't have to imagine writing any story. I didn't imagine anything. It was there. So the writing part was not very difficult. It just took me 2.5 months to pen my thoughts down. The entire story was there. The editing was the thing which took a little more time than writing.
Thank you. Thank you. Abhishek ji, the same question is to you. Even though I understand that you are in ancient, history, etc., so you will have quite naturally these instinct coming, to the fore for writing these, memoirs or thinking. But when did you started thinking seriously to write? And again, the same question as to why in English.
Thank you so much, sir, for the question. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल उपस्थित सभी अतिथि गणों एवं विद्वान जनों को मेरा हार्दिक प्रणाम. To begin with, let me begin poetically and metaphorically. Today at Nalanda, we are not only sitting in this literature festival. In fact, we are sitting on the profound historical and cultural legacy of Nalanda University. We all know that this region once housed a world-class university which attracted and drew students and scholars from across the globe who studied here languages like Sanskrit, Apabhramsh, Pali, the many Prakrits, Tamil, so on and so forth. So we, as a nation and as a soil, have always drawn sustenance and substance from multiculturalism and linguistic plurality. So, in English is not indigenous to our nation, to our soil, and to our social, cultural, and linguistic backdrop. प्रधानमंत्री जी ने कुछ ही समय पहले मकौले पे अपना वक्तव्य रखा. So it was actually the Charter Act of 1813 and Macaulay's Minute on Education of 1835 that enforced English into our collective psyche by replacing the traditional knowledge systems and other language traditions like Sanskrit and Arabic. Today, English has become so deeply embedded in our mundane lives, and it's quite ironic that this conversation is happening in English, right? But now English has become a necessity because in the world of globalization, we cannot do away with English. So coming back to your question that when did I actually start writing in English? See, I'm an ancient Indian historian. And I'd like to tell you that for me, when I started my academic journey in JNU, it was because of the world-class scholarly literature on history that was written in English. And that's why we could compete with the global audience as well as global scholars. I mean, I have attended workshops, seminars, and conferences of ancient Indian history around the world because I was fluent in English. Otherwise, somebody else could have taken the opportunity. And so today, English is a necessity. And if one needs and wants to compete with other people, English is very, very necessary. However, at the same time, what I'd like to emphasize is that English should grow in as cultural conglomeration along with the revivalism of other regional and vernacular languages. So it should not be just that English is growing at the cost of other linguistic traditions and local dialects. I think that is something that we also keep to need in mind. So if it's a vast forest, English only needs to be a tree, and that branches itself and that expands its branches into skies higher and higher, but along with the growth and expansion of other literary traditions that may not have come to the forefront till now. Thank you.
Thank you for your very prophetic and prophecy about this. Now, I come back to Mr. Lodha. Uh, आपकी लेखनी में जो पुलिस की कहानी है या पुलिस का पूरा वजूद उसमें दिखाया गया है, उसमें साहित्य और मल्टीकल्चरलिज्म किस प्रकार से आपको दिखा या उसको कैसे उसमें आपने समेटा है?
देखिए, मैं स्पष्ट रूप से बताना चाहूँगा, साहित्यकार तो मैं हूँ नहीं, पुलिस में अफसर हूँ। और जो मैंने कहानी लिखी, मैंने एक पुलिस वाले के पर्सपेक्टिव से लिखी, उसके नज़रिए से कहानी की लिखी। और मैं जो सच में मेरे साथ घटा, मैं बिहार में 1999 में आया, उसके बाद शेखपुरा नाम के एक ज़िले में एक बहुत बड़े अपराधी को पकड़ा, उसको कैसे पकड़ा, उसकी पूरी कहानी। और इसमें जितने मेरे सहकर्मी थे, जितने पुलिसकर्मी थे, जिन्होंने मेरे साथ इस पूरे मिशन को अंजाम पहुँचाया, उनके बारे में मुझे कहानी लिखनी थी। उस तरह से लिखा, लेकिन साथ ही साथ मेरा सेंस ऑफ ह्यूमर बहुत अच्छा है। तो मैंने इसमें कई ऐसी चीज़ें, प्लस कई चीज़ें ऐसी होती हैं जो अपने जीवन में होती हैं, जो वाक़ई में हास्यास्पद होती हैं, चाहे आप पुलिसकर्मी हो, चाहे कोई भी हो। तो कितना भी विपरीत माहौल हो, कितनी भी विषम परिस्थिति, उसके दौरान भी आपके पास हँसने का कुछ न कुछ मौका मिल जाता है। वो सारी चीज़ें मैंने इसमें लिखी। साथ ही मैंने बिहार का जो परिप्रेक्ष्य है, यहाँ के जो लोग हैं, उनका प्यार है, उनका संस्कार है, संस्कृति है, उस सब के बारे में मैंने लिखा है। तो मुझे बहुत हर्ष होता है, बहुत अच्छा लगता है जब लोग पढ़ते हैं और बताते हैं कि किताब का नाम भी बिहार डायरीज़ है। तो बिहार के अंदर जो मेरे संस्मरण है, मेरे जो एक्सपीरियंसेस, उनको मैंने लिखा। और उसको हर तरह के लोग, खासकर युवा और जितने लोगों को पुलिस के प्रति कुछ भी आकर्षण होता है, वो सब लोग पढ़ते हैं, उनको काफ़ी मज़ा आता है इस किताब को पढ़ने में। इसके बाद लिखी थी मैंने लाइफ इन द यूनिफ़ॉर्म, तो उसका हिंदी अनुवाद किया गया, उसका नाम लिखा गया मेरी वर्दी मेरी मेरी खाकी मेरी ज़िंदगी। तो ये दोनों किताबें हैं जो इंग्लिश में भी और हिंदी में भी हैं। और तीसरी किताब लिखी पुलिस अफेयर्स, विच अ फिक्शनल स्टोरी ऑफ एन आईपीएस ऑफिसर, प्योरली बेस्ड ऑन रियल इंसिडेंट्स हैपनिंग ऑल अराउंड अस। वो भी बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग किताब है, उसका भी हिंदी अनुवाद नहीं हुआ है।
जी। जैसा कि आपने बिल्कुल ये माना कि ये आपकी तरफ से आपकी एक प्रस्तुति है जो आपने पुलिस के दृष्टिकोण से लिखा है, पर मुझे लगता है कि पुलिस अपने आप में इतना व्यापक और पूरी संस्कृति और समुदाय का ऐसा एक एक्सप्रेशन है कि वो बिना मल्टीकल्चरिज्म के हो नहीं सकता। इसलिए ज़ाहिरी तौर पे उस पे जो आपने साहित्य और साहित्य कोई एक परिभाषे में परिभाषित नहीं होता है, तो कुछ भी साहित्य हो सकता है अगर उसमें पठनीय सामग्री उपस्थित हो। बहरहाल आनंद साहब, मैं आपसे ये समझना चाहूँगा कि आपका तो जो विषय है उसमें मल्टीकल्चरलिज्म और मल्टी फैसेटेड इश्यूज हैं, बिना उसके हिस्ट्री पूरा होता नहीं। आपको क्या लगता है कि बदलते परिवेश में जो मल्टीकल्चरिज्म है, उसको कैसे आपने उसमें समावेशित किया है? क्योंकि मल्टीकल्चरलिज्म खुद ही एक हिस्टोरिकल सिग्निफिकेंस का विषय होता जा रहा है।
Thank you for your question. Multiculturalism is all about respecting not just your identity, not just your customs and traditions, not just your own rituals and festivals, but of others as well. So, क्षमा प्रार्थी हूँ कि क्योंकि मैं प्राचीन भारतीय इतिहास और संस्कृति का पहले तो शोधार्थी था और अब विद्वान, अगर मैं अपने आप को कह सकूं, तो मैं उसी परिप्रेक्ष्य में उत्तर देना चाहूंगा। राइट फ्रॉम द आर्काइक संस्कृत ऑफ द Vedic corpus to the classical Sanskrit of the Itihas Puran tradition, from the from the Pali of the Buddhist canon to the Tamil of the Sangam literature of Dravidian India. Then from Bengali in the east to Hindi of the heartland, and from Maithili to Bhojpuri of this very region where we are sitting right now, that was once the political seat of power known as Magad. India has never been a land and a country of a single or a solitary language. So we have to understand that India has always been a multilinguistic soil. So today, if we want to progress and we are aiming towards Viksit Bharat by 2047, that cannot happen if we just prioritize and if we just take into consideration our own Indian, our own set of system and set of values and traditions. But multiculturalism also does not mean that you forget your own roots. So it has to operate on two levels. सो जो हमारी सहनशीलता है वो हमारी कमजोरी नहीं बननी चाहिए. ओके, सो एट द सेम टाइम while you are respecting that other traditions are simultaneously prospering and growing on your soil, you also need to be very, very aware and alert about how you have come this far historically, culturally. मैं देखता हूँ, so let me please allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to brief you a little about the research organization that I'm working in. So I am a senior research fellow at this think tank cum research foundation known as Bharat Ki Soch, wherein this is inspired by ancient Indian wisdom. So what are we trying to do? Though it's only 3 months old, we are into some serious academic research on how we can explore and utilize traditional Indian knowledge systems and practices towards crafting a better today and tomorrow. That is, एक बेहतर आज और एक बेहतर कल के निर्माण के लिए हम पारंपरिक भारतीय पद्धतियों एवं परंपराओं को कैसे पुनर्विकसित कर सकते हैं. That's what we are trying to do. So we should be aware that, तो मैं आजकल देखता हूं तो हमारा एक सोशल मीडिया प्लेटफॉर्म भी है. तो जैसे मैं देखता हूं कि आजकल जो जेनजी का बड़ा कोलाहल है आजकल की, उन्होंने तो पूरी तख्ता पलट कर दिया नेपाल में. सो जेनजी आजकल जो रील कल्चर जो जेनजी में पनप रहा है, सो वी वांट our younger generation to actually go back to our history and culture, and of course not in a redundant and a boring way, because history has this reputation of being a boring subject, being a redundant subject, being a dry subject. So that's what we are trying to do, that to revive history from the clutches of the colonial past. और Gen Z को अपने इतिहास और अपने पारंपरिक जीवन शैलियों के बारे में बताना, जागरूक करना, ताकि विकसित भारत की तरफ हमारा लक्ष्य तो पूर्ण हो ही, परंतु हम अपनी पुरानी दादी नानी के नुस्खों को एलोपैथी के ऊपर रख सकें और एक बेहतर समाज का गठन कर सकें. So that was my answer to your question. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer. Now, Amit ji, मैं ये समझना चाहता हूँ कि जो how difficult it is to write about the police from the perspective of knowing police in a much larger context insofar as the society is concerned. तो आपको क्या लगता है इस तरह की लेखनी समाज और पुलिस के बीच सेतु का काम करेगी? ऐसे और लेखकों की आवश्यकता है जो पुलिस के दृष्टिकोण को समाज के प्रति, समाज के सामने और बेहतर ढंग से प्रस्तुत कर सके.
See, I just wanted to write my experiences as a police officer. But as you rightly said, a book or a movie or a web series, if correctly made, can definitely help change the perspectives or ideas an average person has about the police. So what I wrote was the truth, which showed the failures also on the part of the police, including mine. But it also showed the human aspect of a police officer, that how we remain away from our families, how our children grow up without us even knowing in which class they are, who are their teachers, what subjects are they studying. The kind of sacrifices not only a police officer or a policeman or a policewoman makes, even the families make for having any successful operation against criminals. There's so many things, and the most important part is that we are a reflection of the society. A policeman is a reflection of the society. People often speak about the ills of police. कि सर कभी थाने जाते हैं तो थाने जाते हैं डर लगता है ये होता है वो होता है पुलिस ऐसी है वैसी है we all know about it and in the movies particularly we are shown in a very negative light police is always shown coming late at the scene of crime inefficient ineffective but if you sit with me or any police officer in his office or in the police station even for one day you'll realize the kind of pressures an average police officer faces and the kind of sacrifices he makes and even then I would say highly efficient and effective. So this is all I wanted to bring about, in my book, and I'm repeating. I feel very privileged, very humbled that every day, even today, I've met so many youngsters who want to become police officers because they have a different idea of the police now, a different image of the police, and only a police officer could have written that. Because in films we see, or in even in articles, either a policeman is a dabang or a singham. But nobody talks about, and I abhor these terms, dabang, singham, I abhor these terms. Because as a police officer, I firmly believe that one should just follow the law. There's no need to beat 10 people single-handedly. Anyway, you can't do it. You're seeing me, I'm no Sunny Deol, I can't beat 10 people alone. But yes, I'm a man of principles. I stand by my code of rules, ethics, and I will always live up to the expectations of the public. And I always feel proud that I can look at myself in the mirror with great sense of dignity and pride. So this is what I have written in the book, and these books have become a source of inspiration to so many people, so many youngsters, and I feel very amazed that the pen is still mightier than the sword. Still, people read books, children get inspired. So many things are happening. So I feel wonderful that I feel lucky that I wrote these books without even thinking of the consequences that, these books could actually, and as you said that a lot of police officers should write their memoirs. Police officers do write their memoirs and they are very famous police officers in India who have done so much. But the only problem is certain officers, they have a tendency of writing only about their achievements. So in my book, I've written my fallibilities, my mistakes, how human we are. So I think that is the difference between my book and other people's.
Wonderfully said and very balanced. Just one more supplementary question which arises from here, which comes to my mind is uh, your ability to write, your metaphorism, your being tech savvy. To what extent did it help in the policing, the manner in which you wanted to, present this as in your profession?
As a police officer, of course, my being adept with latest technologies, my background as an IT graduate definitely helped me. And nothing to do with my writing skills. But as a police officer, yes, first of all, it gave me a huge advantage of intelligence and competence. Whenever a criminal used to commit any crime or even the biggest gang lords of Bihar did anything, I always believed कि इनसे तो ज़्यादा ही होशियार हो, तो पकड़ तो लूँगा इनको. So this is the kind of confidence you have. So this is one thing, and of course, criminals are very intelligent. It's not that they are not intelligent; they have a sense of what is going to happen. Even in this case, which I wrote about in Bihar Diaries, the criminals they could sense that I'm tracking them using mobile phones and technology. They switched off their mobile phones. So I've written in detail that despite their switching off their mobile phones, still I could nab them because then I used, Chanakya Niti, Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed. And luckily for me, in this book, particularly Bihar Diaries, which is based on a real story of my arresting criminals of Sheikhpura, both the villains, the antagonists who I was looking after, they were having affairs. So even if they switched off their mobile phones for 22 hours, for 2 hours they used to put them on to talk to their girlfriends. So that was good enough for me to. That was good enough for me. But only problem was that I had to listen to all their romantic gibberish for hours. And they had no time, exactly when will they call their girlfriends. So I had to remain awake कि कभी भी phone हो सकता है अपनी girlfriend को phone करेगा मुझे सुनना है उसकी बातें.
So I think now you can see some romantic book also coming from him He's holding a lot of sources of these romanticism through the.
No, my third book, Police Affairs, pun intended, it is about an IPS officer only who gets involved romantically with another woman. आप पढ़ लीजिए इसको interesting.
So I was not wrong what I expected of him. Anyway, uh, now coming to you, Mr. Anand, I just wanted to, just as a common man, I want to understand Indian knowledge system is indeed absolutely rich. It remains in the prints of the books, papers. Uh, for example, I have been hearing since early childhood that Sanskrit is perhaps the best suited for writing codes for the computer science, etc., etc. Why do you think so far we have not been able to generate such kind of systems whereby this knowledge system has been brought under certain structure and efficient structure whereby it is started to giving us certain result?
Thank you for your question. I would begin by answering this by saying better late than never. So uh, we have made a start, and the reason why Indian knowledge systems got suppressed and they got repressed and they were marginalized, they were sidelined, was precisely because of the coming of the colonial knowledge and as colonial English and as a colonial discipline, wherein everything that was Indian in nature and character was pushed to the margins by calling it barbaric, by calling it uncouth, by calling it backward, by calling it regressive. So all of that happened, and even after independence, we have not been able to achieve because of the colonial mindset and colonial legacy that we are carrying and that we have been carrying. So we have to stop living in this inferior mindset that India is backward, India is regressive, so on and so forth. Because okay, we were in under the British rule for about 150, close to 150 years, and that has brought tremendous transformation in society, culture, so on and so forth, in our value systems. But now a start has been made, and I think we have a long way to go and miles to walk before we sleep. But we also have to understand that we have to make the current generation aware of what Indian knowledge systems are. Otherwise, it's all going to vanish. And the second part of your question, that these, I mean, this mine on information and knowledge, which it has remained just confined to libraries and confined to books and textbooks. I'll just take a minute, and it's going to be a long anecdote or a long example. So we all know of this legend or the story that is there in the 10th canto of Bhagavad Puran, also known as Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein Bal Gopal Krishna eats mud, and the concerned and worried foster mother Yashoda tells him to open his mouth, and when he opens his mouth, she sees the entire solar system and planets, etc. Now that may be a myth, but you know what is the very next verse that Krishna says to Yashoda? In that very text, in the next verse, he says that, "Don't worry, Maya, I'm going to make this land so pure that any toddler like me can eat a little piece of dirt and taste it." So here, what I'm saying is that we know of Krishna as Radha's lover, as Rukmani's husband, as Arjuna's benefactor, so on and so forth. But how many of us know of Krishna as an environmentalist and an environmental conservator? All of this, I mean, it will take lifetime for just one scholar to, for example, just concentrate on one aspect of knowledge system. Let's say environment, or let's say sir talked about Sam Dam Dandabhed of Chanakya. I mean, how can we strengthen our national policy in a globally uncertain times, but more so in a troubled situation in South Asia, where we are all surrounded by enemies or antagonists? Now, what lessons can we learn from Kautilya's scheme of things? What does Matsya Nyaya mean? And why does he say that Dand should be the last resort when the other three have failed? So what we need to do is that we need to bring this mine of information this reserve of information and knowledge that is truly Indian in nature and character, as I previously said, and bring it to the layman, bring it to the common person, bring it into the public domain, and that's what we are striving to do. It's, of course, it's a very, very long and arduous journey, but I think we shall tread and achieve the desired result. Thank you.
Thank you. Uh, Amit ji, I just, again, yet another set of question is that while you wrote this book, did you ever think of making certain change in the way police functions? Of course, you said that it was your perception or your fact of looking at the policing towards the society. Do you think after reading this, a lot of things has changed in society, especially in Bihar where you were serving? While you interacted with a lot of people and people looking at you from this author, has their perception about you also changed?
No, I assume that people always had a good opinion of me.
That's very smart.
So, no, I was SP of this district for 3 years. This was my first district, Nalanda. And the kind of love and adulation I got, it was overwhelming. And the simple reason for that love was that I was one of the people. I never thought that I'm an officer, you know. For me, power is not keeping somebody waiting outside my office for 2 hours. It is to bring instant relief to somebody who's come to meet me. And come what may, even today I meet people anywhere, everywhere. And now it is the world of technology. People send me WhatsApp also. And I get surprised. I get messages from all over the country that हमारे रोहतक में SP साहब नहीं सुन रहे हैं, कर्नाटका में ये problem है. Then I tell them that I'm Bihar cadre. They are beyond my purview, but still send the messages to the concerned SP. It's an easy thing to do, you know, WhatsApp message with my own reference, and things do happen. So, because you know, I always believed in policing, you know, policing my own people first. If police officers, they behave, they're dignified, courteous to public, it makes a huge difference. So, first of all, I needed to get the public on my side. So when I was SP of this place, I started an initiative called Sambhav 25 years back. And Sambhav means it's always possible. So I could see that there was a chasm between the public and the police, but then I was very young that time, 25 years old.
You are still young.
Yeah, I am still young. I don't deny that. So I used to meet all the college students, call them home and discuss ideas with them. And the resources were very limited that time. So I had youngsters working for me as volunteers, managing traffic, giving me information, managing communal rights. So many things happened. And I grew up along with the people of Nalanda and other places of Bihar. And even today, so many of them came to meet me in the morning. It was wonderful. कि सर तब आपके साथ वहाँ जाते थे, वहाँ आपके साथ वॉलीबॉल खेला, कल मैं नालंदा मावियर गया, they told me that you played football with us. These small things, but it made me a part of the public here. That SP साहब हमारे साथ मिलते हैं, जुलते हैं, बात करते हैं, which is supposed to be very normal, but normally in our country, bureaucrats keep a distance. Maybe they are very busy, maybe they don't have time. I agree with that also, but even then, ultimately, you know, it's Indian police service, so you have to serve the society. It's a very common thing, you know, but we forget it the moment we clear the UPSC exam. We forget the very reason for which we have chosen the service. So I feel very good that I'm able to help people. My one phone call, my one talk with anybody can make a huge difference. So it's a wonderful service. I feel so glad to be in the uniform always. मैं तो आज भी uniform में था first because I had gone for some official events at the Bihar Police Academy. I love to be in the uniform always.
I just want to understand that too much of popularity, especially for the police, do you ever think that this interferes with your usual governance in the department? Because I think you need to make a balance of popularity and the governance. So how did you make that balance?
I never chose to be popular. You know, you can't chase popularity or fame. There are a lot of people who do try that, but you can't fool all the people all the time. So there has to be some substance. It's not that just you write a book, make a series or something and you become popular. There has to be substance, and that emanates from your inner self, what you are, how you've always been. earlier and now. And of course, there are pitfalls when you become too popular, too famous. People will always try to bring you down. As I heard in a movie, Spider-Man, long time back, that everybody loves a fallen hero. First, they will put you on a pedestal, then they'll wait for you to fall. It always happens. So it's a part of human psychology. It's not only in the police department. Anywhere, if you become popular, famous, you do well for yourself without thinking that you are antagonizing anybody. Even then, people always have a sense of envy, jealousy. It will always remain there. One of the sins of human beings.
Uh, anything future that you are in future? Are you planning to write? Is there something in your mind?
Yeah, I am actually thinking of. First, I'm writing my memoirs of IIT now, which I should have written 35 years back, but I'm writing them now. And then I've seen that there's so many self-help books everywhere. Whenever I go to a bookstore, the shelves are full of self-help books. And I think I'll just write my own story. That will be good enough for so many people. Because if I can do so many things, I can rise like a phoenix from ashes. There are so many other people, particularly youngsters, who go through difficult times, who have a sense of doubt about themselves. I think they can also get inspired, motivated. I'm very sure that this book I will write for sure.
Mr. Anand, what are your strategies now to impress upon the Indian knowledge system systematically, and what are you doing, working currently on?
So at my think tank, we are working across 6 areas that we have delineated. One is governance and administration. Second is economy, commerce, and finance. Third is nutrition, health, and well-being. Fourth is national security and foreign policy. Fifth is environment and sustainability. And sixth is agriculture and food security. So as of now, as I told, that our research foundation is just 3 months old. So we are still in that conceptual level and in that theoretical framework. Wherein we are delineating first the key areas where we can work, and secondly, our team is also expanding as it's recruiting more and more people, particularly from ancient Indian history background, but also some interdisciplinarians, so that we can engage in a fruitful discussion and dialogue. So what we are trying to do is, so let's say if I have chosen environment and sustainability as my work specialization, now then I'm going to earmark some textual traditions or text. Let's say, for example, right now, as I gave the example of Shri Krishna, that emanates from my personal interest in Krishna's teachings on environment in Bhagavad Gita and elsewhere. So, for example, there's this another colleague who she is researching on how we can work alongside agriculture and food security by looking at this voluminous ancient Indian treatise called the Krishi Parashar. So as of now, what we are trying to do is we are just delineating and the work areas for ourselves, for in which we can take a deep dive, so that we can able and simultaneously also looking at the current challenges. So it's not that just we have gone into the past and we remain there. We have to constantly bridge and navigate between what are the current challenges for India as a nation presently, and how we can go back and forth to sort of gauge some learnings and understandings about how to resolve a particular crisis or a problem by envisioning and taking inspiration from what the ancient Indian people, or let's say ancient is actually the whole idea of ancient, medieval, modern itself is, by the way, now being challenged, because it was also a colonial interpretation that ancient was Hindu, medieval was Muslim, and modern was British. It's not that simple, because in medieval also, apart from the Sultanate and the Mughals, a lot of research is now coming up on regional dynasties that were not that were non-Muslim. So this partition itself has come under serious critique. But what I'm trying to say is that we are trying to explore and take deep dive into how our traditional Indian practices that are falling into oblivion can be regenerated, restored, so that we can aim towards a better future, a sustainable future. so that we can build a resilient and progressive Bharat.
Thank you for this answer. I think now we can take up a couple of questions very quickly, please. If there are questions. Yes.
पुलिस को देखिए बहुत लोग नहीं क्वेश्चन पूछ पाते हैं.
नहीं, नहीं, उसका आपने ख्याल रखा है कि ड्रेस में नहीं आए यार.
Sir, Pankaj, thank you for coordinating this session very well. You have dig out many things from there as a police person from Mr. Amit Lodha. The first thing about I want to say one thing about Sanskrit that you have asked the question to Abhishek about scientific things like that. Sanskrit is very scientific in the sense even foreign scholar Leonard Bloomfield once said it is one of the greatest monument of human intelligence. So we have that treasure, we have that richness. Mr. Like, I have a question for you. Like you said, you have written from a police perspective. So do you think, like I have many friends in IPS, I served in BPR&D and community policing, like how to bridge the gap between public and police. So do you ever think that when you start writing, because literature has no boundaries, when you start writing, there might be have come into your mind कि ये नहीं लिखेंगे, ये पुलिस वाले से permission लेना पड़ेगा, ये लेना पड़ेगा. Have you ever thought that is a barrier to get permission in your system to write literature for the armed people, public like us?
As a serving officer who still got a long career ahead, I had to be careful. So in my first book, Bihar Diaries and even Life in the Uniform, I have not written so many things which I could have shared. I have not written about them. And in both the books, still I was as true to myself and to the actual facts possible. So I've written a lot of things which now I think when I look back that I took a grave risk in writing. But I sent both my books to the MHA for approval and they were approved by the MHA. They read the books and they loved it. That's the first compliment I got from the Additional Secretary of MHA that I loved your writing. It's very interesting. You must go ahead with the book. So I never thought about that time, but yes, I have to be very careful. Even today, while I'm sitting at this stage, even then, while answering your questions, I have to be careful about what I have to answer, how balanced of an answer I have to give.
Thank you.
My question is to Anand. Anand, my name is Anil Kariwala, and whatever you're saying was music to my ears because that's precisely the title of my book, Business Yoga, Ancient Wisdom for Modern Businesses. So my question to you is, I don't want to start with a statement. My question to you is, how do you delineate religion out of the very ancient yogic philosophy? So when I speak about Rig Vedas, I've drawn liberally from as much from Rig Vedas as from modern literature, Angela Duckworth or Peter Drucker or anyone. So how do you delineate religion from that, from our ancient wisdom?
I don't think there is a simple answer to that because in ancient Indian traditions, see, even the court has given this ruling that Hinduism is not a religion; it's a way of life, right? In ancient times, also, even though when we are talking about religion, we also have to specify that which religious tradition are we talking about, right? Because if we are just talking about, let's say, Hinduism, so from the Vedic religion to the Puranic Hinduism, the Hindu strand of thought and culture itself underwent many transformations that we have to be aware of while answering to such a question. Then there were also simultaneous parallel heterodox traditions like Buddhism and Jainism simultaneously prospering and growing. And the fact that it was actually Buddhist iconography that gave rise to the Hindu iconography. So all these simultaneous parallel traditions were constantly coexisting. One may be the dominant than the other. I don't deny that fact. And persecution of a minor religious system may have happened at the hands of a dominant tradition. But as far as to separate, to divorce religion from such a society, I think that would be a futile exercise in my opinion. Pardon me if the word is very strong. Because I think in ancient Indian systems and traditions, I mean, all the concepts were very beautifully and inextricably woven into the social and cultural fabric. You cannot just take out one separate strand and uh, treat it's in its own right. I think it was an amalgamation, a conglomeration of many things simultaneously. Like if I'm saying that I'm an ancient Indian historian, that means that I have studied ancient Indian literature, ancient Indian philosophy, ancient Indian art and architecture, ancient Indian economy, ancient Indian society, ancient Indian polity, so on and so forth. So I think back in those times, it could not be delineated and categorized into watertight compartments. It was all a cultural fabric, a wholesome idea that was Bharat. Thank you.
So thank you so much for this. My apologies, sir. We will not be able to take your questions, but you can give it in writing. We'll pass it on to them. We'll have to bring it to a close, and I'll request Ms. Alia ji to please come onto the stage and present them a memento. I'm so thankful to you, sir. And you have heard a discussion about the multiculturalism from the policing perspective and the historical perspective, a sociological interpretation of from two different angles. I'm so thankful to you both.